Hi everybody, I'm Jennifer Blevins-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today I just wanted to do a brief video about hiring of your back office staff. Although this seems pretty easy and intuitive, I'm sure, there are some things that I would like you to consider before hiring someone, and also how I suggest posting for the position in order to screen and get the best candidates to apply. The first thing that you need to do is decide if you need medical assistants, nurses, or a combination of both. This is definitely determined on what procedures you offer and treatment types that you offer in your practice and which scopes of practice they fall into the best. Is it the nursing scope of practice that can do things a little bit more independent, that have their own license, or is it more of a medical assistant where they work under the doctor's license and supervision and have to follow strict policies and protocols? That's going to determine which way you go. In allergy, we had medical assistants and nurses because there was appropriate amount of work for both, especially in the busy practice. But in family medicine, we only had medical assistants because they were able to work in their scope under the doctor's license with set out policies and procedures. It is dependent upon your regulations in your location, in your state, based on their positions and their titles, and also, of course, like we talked about, the treatments and procedures offered in your practice. Once you decide if you need medical assistants, nurses, or both, then you need to look around and find out what's kind of the going rate for hourly wages and salary for both positions. You'll want to look at your locality, probably within like a 10 or 15 mile radius, and deciding what is going to be the best budget for your office and staying in range so you can be competitive with your competitors in the area that are also hiring for the same position, but not being too high or too low on the spectrum of wage. Also consider the benefits that you're going to be offering and how much the employer's side kicks in when it comes to the premiums for medical, dental, vision insurance, and your retirement, and any other things that you offer in the benefit package. Their whole package of salary and benefits will be what you need to consider as a whole for their compensation. Have that ready before you start interviewing. I also encourage you to decide if you're willing to take someone who is fresh out of school or someone who is experienced. If you want someone who is experienced, are you willing to take someone who is just experienced in the medical field in general, or are you wanting someone who's experienced specifically in your specialty and in your field? The other thing is, if you're taking someone out of school that's green, do you have someone in your office that will be able to train them, that's strong, that you know will be able to train them the way you want to, and it's not all falling on your shoulders? If you want it to all fall on your shoulders, that's great, but that is definitely something I would consider and definitely talk about with the person you're expecting to be training this new person, if that's the deal. Posting for the position, I would make it like a job description. That's how I do it, and it might be a little too much information or too detailed, but in my opinion, if people come to the job posting and they're excited about what they see and what they know is going to be expected of them and what they're going to be experiencing, I think that's all the better. I feel that putting vague, ambiguous, and non-specific information in a job posting for a medical assistant or nurse is kind of misleading, and I feel like you might not weed out the people who can't handle certain things. You don't want to hire someone and get them to the point where they're actually in your office and trying to work and they don't handle INDs very well, or they can't handle procedures very well because they don't like the ooey gooey stinky stuff. There are different things that people can and cannot handle, and hopefully they're honest with themselves. And if you put on there that you do procedures, then maybe they're like, ooh, I'm not a procedure person. I probably should look for a different position elsewhere. Or maybe people are like, yes, I love procedures. That's what makes me just want to be there every day and I get excited about it. And then you're like, yes, those are the kind of people I wanted to apply for the position. I think being honest up front of what's expected and what their role is going to be is only going to help you down the road as you interview and you train and they become part of your staff. I would definitely consider if you need a medical assistant or a nurse who has a special skill or certification. If you hire LPNs, do they need to have an IV certification in order to do IVs in your state? And if so, do you want them to have it when they interview and get hired, or is it okay for them to get it after they've been hired? Medical assistants in Oregon could have an extra certification for just doing basic x-ray and be x-ray tech. So if you have an x-ray machine in your office, they can help take certain radiographs. Those are things that you need to think about, and also think about when it comes to compensation as well, because if they have those extra certifications or experience, you might want to pay a little extra for finding that right person. During the interview, I would suggest definitely screening your candidates and doing a phone screening or some kind of video conferencing screening for the first go around. And then people who pass that first basic set of questions that you ask, then you would want to move on to the next. You want to ask everybody during the phone screening the same exact questions so that they are compared apples to apples. And then I would record them, and you have to keep them. So I would keep them all together, and the ones that you feel should be going on to the next level for an in-person interview, definitely keep that with their package so that you don't ask the same questions, but maybe you can ask questions to build off of those questions. In the in-person interview, I encourage you to get the person to think on their feet and not ask them expected questions that they could have rehearsed already or been prepared to answer. I like to get them to critically think and show to me that they understand their role, they understand their job, and that they're confident in their skills. Those are things that I feel people can't always prepare for, so you're not going to get a rehearsed answer, and you're going to get some genuine feedback from the person and things that you can pick up on to make sure that they're the right fit for your office. I also would consider what kind of personality and skills that you still need amongst your existing staff. Would it be good to bring in someone who's more of a leader because maybe you're lacking that in your existing staff and you need someone who can bring that? Or do you need someone who will just kind of fit in and follow the group? Definitely examine and get a good idea of how your existing staff dynamic is and decide what will be good for it and what won't be, because that's going to also help in this process of selecting the right candidate. Personality, in my opinion, has just as much weight as someone who has skill or no skill. Someone who interviews well and doesn't interview well. You don't want to bring someone into your hopefully very good, dynamic, thriving environment and throw a curveball with somebody and disrupt that. Because patients can feel that. Patients don't like it when they can tell that there's tension in the office, and the more harmony you have, the better it's going to affect everyone. Work satisfaction will go up, patient satisfaction, and your stress level will be hopefully less with not having to deal with interpersonal relationship issues. I would definitely be asking for resources, references. I would ask if you can speak with their previous employer or current employer if possible. And I would be looking at the OIG website to make sure there's been no issues with their Medicare exclusionary type stuff, because that's not just for providers, that's for anybody that works in the medical field. And maybe even a background check, especially depending on what kind of medications you dispense in your office and what kinds of things that people might have access to. Of course, you're not going to catch everything, and you're not going to be able to ward off all the bad things that could happen, but at least you're doing your due diligence and you're trying. It's up to you whether to do pre-employment urine drug screening. In my experience, I've never done that, but depending on maybe your specialty, if you're going to be in a clinic, if they're going to be in a clinic where there's a lot of pain medications or controlled medications that are dispensed, maybe that would be good just to get everybody on the same playing field. And depending on what's at their fingertips, I mean, you have to think about what's best for you guys in your situation. During the interview, I would definitely have more than just one person involved in the process. Maybe you have one person do the phone screening, another person do the in-person interview. And I definitely feel like the providers at some point should be involved in this, especially if they're going to be working with this person one-on-one a lot, because you want to make sure that there's not going to be any issues there as well. If you have any experience that you would like to share with us with hiring back office staff, please leave it in the comments below. If you feel like today's video was helpful, smash the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, because we're going to have content like this, and I have a lot of other videos with similar content, and there will be more coming down the road. So definitely subscribe so you are notified when I release new videos. I hope you have a wonderful day and take care of yourself.